Good day, welcome to Memo's tutorials. Today we are looking at nutrient cycles. The first one that we are going to have a look at is nitrogen cycle. Remember, we have about 78 to 79% of nitrogen in the atmosphere. As I'll be recording, you'll be hearing some sounds. I'm recording with my kids, so the background, please bear with me. So I was saying that we've got 79 or 78% of nitrogen in the atmosphere, and when we breathe in and out, we don't use it as animals, but then we use this nitrogen indirectly. So this nitrogen in the atmosphere, you follow the arrows with me. So this nitrogen in the atmosphere, it gets into plants. It's either through lightning or through the help of the nitrogen fixing bacteria that is living in the leguminous roots, right? Legumes, we're talking of things like beans and peanuts. These ones, we call them legumes, and then they have got in their roots, they have got bacteria which is able to fix nitrogen into nitrates, right? So those nitrogen fixing bacteria, they fix the nitrogen and make it available for plants to be able to use it. Once plants use this nitrogen, they'll be able to grow. Remember, nitrogen is the most common element in proteins, right? So this, we also have these nitrogen fixing bacteria in the soil. What they do, they do what we call ammonification. They convert any compounds that contain nitrogen. It can be maybe dead plants, it can be dead animals. When they are decomposed, the ammonia compounds are released, and those ammonia compounds are then further nitrified by the nitrifying bacteria. So the nitrifying bacteria, they convert the ammonia compounds into nitrates and further into nitrates. So these nitrates, they can be used by plants. Assimilation simply means used by plants. They can be used by plants, or through the help of denitrifying bacteria, the nitrogen in nitrates is converted back into nitrogen gas, and then it goes back into the atmosphere. That's why we say it's a cycle. It's the nitrogen cycle. So the cycle continues like that when we have lightning, or because through the help of the nitrogen fixing bacteria that we find in legumes like beans and peanuts, the groundnuts and roundnuts. So these ones, they convert the nitrogen gas into nitrates, and it can be used by plants. And when these plants and the animals die that contain ammonia, that have got ammonium compounds, these ammonium compounds, they will undergo what we call nitrification, where the ammonium is converted into nitrates, and the nitrates are further converted into nitrates by the nitrifying bacteria. So we have got three types of bacteria here. We have the nitrogen fixing bacteria, which changes nitrogen into nitrates, and we have got nitrifying bacteria. The nitrifying bacteria changes ammonium compounds into nitrates, and we have denitrifying bacteria. Denitrifying bacteria, they just remove everything else, then we remain with nitrogen, and this nitrogen is going to go back into the atmosphere, right? So questions might come with some of the parts missing, and then they would want you to tell us what happens there when plants and animals die. What happens to them? They are decomposed, right? I'm sure you can see a hair there, and the plants, when they die, they are decomposed by what? These small microorganisms, which are bacteria and fungi most of the times. And when they are decomposed, what do we form? Ammonium compounds are formed, and those ammonium compounds are then nitrified by the nitrifying bacteria, and then we form nitrates. And those nitrates, there are two things involved. They can either be used by plants, or they can be denitrified to go back to nitrogen. And remember, assimilation simply means the use. So the plants will eat the plants will use the nitrogen and the hair there, us animals will feed on plants, and then we gain the proteins there, right? So the cycle continues and continues. Now let's move on to the carbon cycle. I'm sure we are all familiar with carbon dioxide, the one that we breathe out. So it's a very useful gas. This carbon is very useful for plants to photosynthesize. For photosynthesis to take place, carbon dioxide is very essential in sunlight as well. So after the plants have used this carbon dioxide to make food, right, they can die. When they die, we've got death and decomposition. When they die, we've got the bacteria. Remember when we talked of nitrogen cycles, these bacteria and fungi, they are going to decompose the dead organic matter, and then carbon dioxide will be produced during the process of decomposition, right? We also have cars, even industries, they emit quite a lot of carbon into the atmosphere. So this carbon is going back into the atmosphere. And then we have got what we call root respiration, and we've got the animals and the organic carbon. So the animals, remember, we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, right? So we are emitting the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. We have got plants during respiration, normal respiration, carbon dioxide will be emitted into the atmosphere as well. The only time plants breathe in carbon dioxide, take in carbon dioxide, is during photosynthesis. And then as animals will feed on the plants, we are also getting the carbon. But then when the plants and us animals die, death and decomposition, when it takes place, carbon dioxide will be released back into the atmosphere. So that's how the cycle keeps on going and on, right? So when they bring these questions, you should be able to understand what is missing. They will not bring the cycle exactly as this one that I'm explaining here. The cycles can be different, but what you need to master is that when we're talking of carbon cycle, we have plants as the ones that are taking carbon dioxide from the atmosphere into them. Everything else gives carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. Animals, as we respire, we give back carbon dioxide, and at some point when we talk of root respiration, roots, they don't photosynthesize, right? So when we talk of root respiration, carbon dioxide is being emitted back into the atmosphere. When you see factories, when you see cars, carbon is being sent into the atmosphere. The death on death and decay, those organisms, they're also emitting what? Carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So that's all for now. Thank you.